Hello everybody, welcome to this video, again with this perspective of tempo research. It has been a while over the summer. I've updated you last week directly from the Leuven Gallery at the organ that this summer has been, quite busy for me with a lot of projects. And if you haven't seen that video, you can check it out on my channel. But I will update you in the coming weeks and months more about what's going to happen with this channel, because we are going to continue with presenting videos on tempo research, more related to the book. That also of that, that project, I will update you more in the coming weeks. By the way, I'm testing out new gear, not specifically new gear, but in a new way. I'm recording this on my computer here directly to save some time in editing. So also to prepare for, future videos and series that I would very much like to share with you to, speed up the post-production process. Being a YouTube creator, if you are making videos on YouTube, you know how much work there is, not only in recording and preparing the recording, but I would say definitely also in the post-production. So in my new setup, which will be a room actually at my mother's, he lives here, not so far from here, there I will hopefully have more time also available to be just, it's a dedicated room only to make videos. But I will not digress in this video. I will update you later. It's just to say that if things go wrong or the microphone is clipping, I was struggling with this microphone quite a lot. Or if you hear airplanes today, I don't know what the Belgian army has in mind, but they very much want to participate making this video. Then I hope you would apologize me. It's one of the least pleasant aspects for, at least for me, being a YouTube creator, is this technical stuff that seems to work with everybody else except me. And it works always when I'm testing, but never when I'm going to record, actually. So without further ado, this video will be on Bach and Bach's tempi in the last 30 years. This article was sent by me by a viewer, and so again, also when you have suggestions for me to make videos with articles that you find or videos that you find that might be of my interest, link them in the description below. I will make in the future a hashtag so that I can find these suggestions more. And by the way, if you post a link in the description box, in the comment box, it's not in the description box, YouTube by default is putting that in, well, a kind of spam folder, which I'm checking not myself, but we have people to do that. So if there are links there that are just shared for my attention to be reviewed, or just made like this one, a potential video or an interesting topic to talk about, please link it in the comment boxes. But don't worry if your comment disappears. It's YouTube actions, and we try to find it back in the spam folder, which sometimes is not so easy, but in the future with a hashtag that should be much easier. So okay, so the article that was shared is here. You can see it, and I should see, this is actually what I wanted to show you. It's an article published in the magazine Rollingstone. I don't know if that has to do something with the pop group, so maybe I should know. Maybe this is very famous and I'm acting a little bit stupid here. But anyways, this is an article published there in 2018 already. And the perspective from which this article is written is that, you see it in the title, even classical music is getting faster these days. This article is really interesting to share because it has some elements that really tie into directly to the research that we're doing. And I'm going to digress. I'm going to dissect it a little bit more after we have read it. There's a lot that we can say about it, but let's just have a look at this article first, and then I come back to it. So, even classical music is getting faster these days, and the subtitle, record labels studies show performances of Bach are almost 30% faster than they were 50 years ago. So pop and rap aren't the only two genres speeding up in tempo in the breakneck music streaming era. The quickening of pace seems to be affecting even the oldest forms of the art. Per research this weekend from 2 record labels, classical music performances of J.S. Bach have also gotten faster, speeding up as much as 30% in the last half century. Universal owned Deutsche Grammophon and Decca conducted a study into multiple recordings of Bach's famed double violin concerto in celebration of the release of Bach 333, a box set marking the 330th and whatever anniversary of the German composer's birth. The label found that modern recordings of the work have shaved off 1/3 of the length of recordings from 50 years ago, quickening by about a minute per decade. That performance trend would fall in line with faster tempos in modern music as audiences' attention spans shrink, and streaming particularly pushes artists and songwriters to be more conscious of every second. And then they elaborate a little bit on that. So I will link the article in the description box if you want to read it again. I think you need a subscription for the entire article. But anyways, this is the most important part. Also here you have the timings from the recordings they took to come to the conclusion that, and I guess there are more, to come to the conclusion that over 30 years, Bach's tempi have increased 30%. Well, there are a few things that we can say about this. First of all, if you would ask any of those musicians today, whether they are, and I think most people playing Bach today are in the, unless you play it on a Steinway, but even then you see people like Andras Schiff when he plays Bach. I'm not saying that his goal is really to be quote unquote authentic, but the influence of the historical informed performance practices everywhere. So let's say when we talk about an ensemble that plays the Brandenburg Concerto or the violin concerto, whatever, pieces of Bach Baroque music in general, you see this tendency very clear. And if you attend concerts, you certainly will have noticed that yourself, that sometimes the tempi are so incredibly fast that also Baroque orchestras start to actually, I wouldn't say mess up, but really play so incredibly fast that technically it becomes very hard for them to keep up with the chosen tempo. Now, I'm not saying everybody does that. I'm really not generalizing to the entire scene of the early music performance, but what you can say is what also in this article has been noticed, that it is a trend. And my point is, the first point you can make here is that if you would ask people that played in this trend of faster and faster and defend their tempi, and you would ask literally, go on stage or after stage, you meet these people, the conductor or the cembalo player, whatever, and you ask, what's the basis of your tempo? Why are you playing it so incredibly fast? There is no answer. And the people who might listen to me like now say, yeah, how can you know? I mean, these people are in the historically informed performance practice field, they study, they have genuine knowledge of what they are doing, and yet you are here to say that if they play so fast and you would ask them why, they would answer, I have no idea. Of course, they would not answer that. Just ask these people to the foundation, to the reasons why they play it as they do. And now, granted, this is not always easy. It's not that I'm not saying here that Wim Winters knows everything about Baroque tempi. I do not. What I do know is that the foundational principles of the tempo ordinario are never in play when you hear these tempi. And this is something that surprises me I've been there. I've been asking these questions to friends. I mean, it's always difficult. And when you are professional musicians amongst, you meet each other, you don't ask these things normally. You can ask when you know each other very well. But it's always like asking for a reason for a certain aspect in an interpretation is always, it's like being a little bit suspicious about the reasons why you played like that or why your colleague played like that, and you don't go there. There is a certain, it's a normal way of working together. You don't do that. So if you are a member of an audience, it's sometimes hard to go up to the conductor and say, why did you do it like that? It's people share what they want to share. So I'm not saying you should bombard all these people like tomorrow with questions like that. I know you're not going to do that. I mean, I know my audience too well for that. There is certain level of politeness as well. Joe, I'm just talking, of course, in a certain way. I hope you understand that. But I have had these conversations with good friends, and it's sometimes striking, and often striking when you go really deep, that there is not really an understanding why we play like we play. The notion of the tempo ordinario, where in common time, when the normal 4/4 bar structure with 16th note and normal harmonic patterns, like say with one accent every minim, every half note, there applies around the 60 for like the second for a quarter note, which is documented so often. It's something that you would be surprised by, that people in the hip world are not really aware of that. And if they are aware of that, then the question is, why do you not apply it? Why do you play so much faster than that? And so the fact of the matter is, and that's my first point, and that's my main concern as well, is that the audience, and also in this article, you can feel it, you can smell it, that people who wrote this article are more into the pop music world, modern music, than in classical music. But they assume, they didn't give the reason, but they assume between the lines, you can read that, and for a general music audience that certainly applies, they assume that people are on stage and labeled historically informed performance practice or musician, that they know what they're doing. And when they speed up so much, my point is they do not know what they're doing. They take the music to a field where they will, and their answers will be, well, if you play it slower, you will lose the long lines, or you don't feel the bow, or the attention is like lost, or you have to bring together these 4 bars as a unity. All these things, which I always, found like very funny, because that's a really late 19th century way of playing. You will hear that. You will not hear people say like you have to divide the tactus or the main note in like up and down, and then feel the tension within that. Some things like that. You will feel always like you have to feel, the line, the big line. And that's funny, because if you go back, and that's my second point, if you go back in history and you go back to the 19th century, 1830, 1820, 1839 especially, I've made two videos on that date, where a gentleman named Fink made a very strong article on the general state of performance practice of his time, in which he said, and he focused on Mozart in that specific article, because in that article the composer Tomacek gave metronome marks for Don Giovanni, so the opera of Mozart. But it applies also to Beethoven. He mentions Beethoven as well, and actually music in general, a performance of music in general that goes back to the previous and the generation before, the Beethovens, the Haydns, the Mozart, how people were playing that in the 1930s, 1940s. And the words he used there are like barbaric. Like people are, it's difficult to translate that German word, but it's like something in the range of murdering Mozart's music. Why? By rage of rapidity. People want to show off their virtuosity, and that's what he explained in 1839. And so in that time, in 20, 30 years, you saw an increase of tempi that I think surpassed the 30% ratio of what's mentioned here. It's more like 50 to 75% if you combine that with other sources, and the book will have more of a complete overview of that. But what happened there with classical music, and classical music being music up to Beethoven, happens today with Baroque music. And so this line of Bach, Bach's tempi, that's what I feel. That would require a lot of study, but you can see that it has been studied for a long time, has been taken outside this 19th century virtuosity. If you hear old recordings of the Leipziger Kantorei, even by people like Günter Ramin, so all this post-Straube era, early 20th century recordings, you see that these tempi are much, much slower than we do today. If you see metronome marks, we will come to that very soon, of the Matthäus Passion late 19th century. When you would put them today, and they're in single beat, When you would ask today Baroque specialists to comment on those tempi, they would certainly say that's the romanticized version of Bach. And I do not say here that in 1899, or I think it's around 1895, 1899, these metronome marks we have of the Matthäus Passion by a Belgian composer, by the way. I'm not saying that everything they did was generally authentic in the way that Bach would have played that music, but you can see a kind of constant in tempo in Baroque music where the classical music from the 1820s went like that, and you have like this line. And nowadays, Baroque music is following the same sequence, same evolution. The matter of fact is, at the end of the circle of reasoning, you come to certain points that you have to meet. The tempo ordinario. What's the value of a quarter note in a normal time? What happens when you have structural note values that surpass the 16th notes, like triplets, 16 triplets, or even 30-second notes? I once was asked by a musician that I really admired. He passed away, unfortunately, some years ago. But he asked me to, in these Bach arias, when you have 30-second notes, he said, I want to sing it much slower. Why would Bach have introduced their 30-second notes? Why would he want such a high speed? Because that's obviously what the 30-second notes indicate. No, the 30-second notes indicate that you go in another notation form. You slow down the 30 seconds, become what the 16th notes were before. And it's maybe not, and I'm going to detail, I will not bombard you here with too many details. It's not that you are halving the tempo then compared to normal time, but you're slowing down considerably. Is that a secret? No, that's written in sources. At the end of the circle, when all the arguments have been said, you still have there the basic principles that in these two fast performances are violated. So guys, I thought this was worth sharing with you, and after a period of silence on tempo, don't worry, it's coming back. It's never been away. The book is there to provide a lot of sources and a lot of interesting perspectives to share, and all it takes is just waiting for my new studio to be ready, and there also I will develop a new series at the clavichord talking about the implication of this research, what happens at the instrument, what is actually the musical result of this when you apply the BMP to music of Beethoven, and even going further back from that perspective, what does it mean? Musically, diving into the composition, also technically fingering all of these stuff that's coming back also on the channel, so to diversify a little bit and also focus on the implication. If you enjoyed what you've just watched, do subscribe to this channel, hit the bell, and consider supporting us on Patreon. We need all of you to continue our fascinating musical journey back in time. Thanks for watching. We see each other soon again. Bye.